Brazil beat defending World Cup champions Spain in the Confederations Cup final last night. 78,000 fans packed into the Maracana Stadium, which will host next year's World Cup final, to see Brazil lift their third Confederations Cup title in a row. Well, protests continued until the march got underway, as Daniel Henry reports.
After the demands, the discord and demonstrations, delight. For 90 minutes at least, unity replaced unrest in Brazil as the nation got behind their team, roaring them to victory. Striker Fred opened the scoring in the second minute, the fastest goal in Confederations Cup final history. Just before half-time, Brazil doubled their lead. Barcelona bound Neymar, scoring his fourth goal of the tournament. Spain's 29-match unbeaten run came to an end in the 47th minute. Fred scoring again, ending the match as a contest. There was still time for Sergio Ramos to miss a penalty and for defender Gerard Piqué's frustrations to bubble over. 3-0 at the final whistle then. Brazil brilliant, Spain shocked. Daniel Henry, Arise News.
So a great victory for Brazil there. Joining us in the studio now to tell us more is our sports reporter Daniel Henry. Now, what would have happened if they hadn't have won?
Well, you know, there were already protests outside, so you can imagine how much the response would have been had they lost. Fortunately, Brazil stepped up to the plate. They played Spain off the park, and the real stars of that game were not so much the players who, you know, let's face it, are paid lots of money to do what they do. It was really about the fans who, before the game, united and sung the national anthem with such gusto that it just threw Spain completely off their game. They were shook, they were shaken, and they were down within 2 minutes.
What was it about the way they sang it? Was it just how loud it was? Or was it just the emotion? What was it?
A combination of both, really. The volume, the emotion. You know, I think it was really about the way that it was done, because it was unexpected, really. You know, what they had was all of the trumpets playing as usual and all of the music underneath, and all of a sudden they just pulled that, and then it was just the a cappella of everyone singing, and it just felt as though the whole nation had stepped forward, and as if the unrest was put to one side just for that 90 minutes, and everyone just came together, sang their hearts out, and it really paid dividends on the team.
See, because we've been thinking about this, you know, just obviously in the weeks before the match, and looking at the unrest in Brazil and so on, say, hang on a second, you know, they are protesting about the World Cup and so on, but when they win the World Cup, which they surely will, they surely will win the World Cup.
Well,
unless, you know, you just have to say, that'll bring... No, I put money on it. I bet there aren't any bets right now you could actually put on it. That, you know, it'll bring the nation together, because it does. I mean, that's what they do. They are a samba nation, aren't they? And they just absolutely... I'm not being denigrated in Brazil at all. I'm sure they do lots of other things, but as a vein that runs through it, it's about football and samba and dancing and rhythm and football, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to say that after last night's victory, Brazil are the favourites to win that tournament now. You know, you've got Spain, who are coming into that game having won 29 straight games against every international opponent they've ever played against, come up against the World Cup winners, 5-time winners Brazil, and you know they capitulate. And Brazil now will really feel as if to have the World Cup in their backyard to play, they can play anybody. And
Champions of the world, really.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I know you want to talk about tennis. Just let me ask you one thing.
Yes.
David Moyes got to talk to the Rooney tomorrow.
That's
and
right.
Talk about his mere £250,000.
That's right.
Wage, whether he's going to move or not. I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
That's right. You know, David Moyes starts today as Manchester United manager.
Do you think he'll handle him okay?
Well, you know, you'd have to expect they've got history together.
Sure.
Rooney started at Everton. Moyes was there.
Yeah.
He introduced him to professional football, really, and gave him his chance. So if anyone knows how to handle Wayne Rooney, it's David Moyes. But obviously, there have been problems with Wayne Rooney at Manchester United in the last couple of seasons, where he's handed not one but two transfer requests.
Yeah.
So you wonder how much he wants to stay at the club now, and whether or not the new manager, what he's
Wants
going
to
to do
keep
to
him.
put his stamp on that club.
Yeah, indeed. Quick look at Wimbledon. I mean,
Yes.
there's really only 4 people in it now, isn't there?
Well, unfortunately now there's 3. Laura Robson has won. Laura Robson has lost her match to Kaya Kipsay. She lost today, so she's out. Now we're down to 3. We've got Djokovic, who's on later on tonight. We've got Andy Murray, and we've also got Serena Williams, who is still there, and we'll have to see how she gets on in her match later on this evening.
How's the grass holding up?
Yes. How's that slippery grass holding on?
Well, I don't understand what the players were moaning about, to be honest, because it's grass. You know, it's as if they'd never played on this surface before. You know, grass sometimes slips, and that's part and parcel of the game, really.
But isn't that part of the problem? There's not as many tournaments played on grass, and they're not so used to. They're much more used to clay, so they're not used to the skiddiness. And grass, when it's high at first, and when they play on it, it's pounded down.
Yes, yeah, but yes, again, these are professional sportsmen and women who know this surface. They
Grow
know,
up is what you're saying.
Yeah, they know what they're coming into. It's no more slippery or less slippery than years before.
Okay, great.
Daniel, thanks very
Thank
much
you.
indeed.